In today's video, guys, I want to talk about the Hydra clan boss. This will be more of a general Hydra endgame guide. We're going to talk about buffs, debuffs, gear sets, and pretty much everything that we need to basically use nowadays in the Hydra clan boss, considering that the changes are in-game, right? And they absolutely changed the way we are doing Hydra clan boss. One, is not as enjoyable as it used to be, and two, it definitely got much harder, and we do need to adjust most of our teams if we're trying to basically really step up our damage. This guide will focus more on the endgame guys, on teams that are able to really do a lot of damage, and just to see how we can enhance our damage based on things that I've already tested or things that clanmates or buddies of mine already tested, and we kind of like had a pretty big conversation related to the entire topic. Keep an eye in the next few days, guys. I will be releasing a different guide for the Hydra clan boss, and that will be just in general for pretty much all of the players, where we're talking about the do's, the don't do's, and all of those important things. I do want to start by talking about one of the most interesting things, and that is increased speed and decreased speed in the high-end teams, okay? And let's just take, for example, Krisk. Now, without a doubt, increased speed won't be an issue, okay? And increased speed in general will be a good buff to have, especially if you're trying to rotate your champions more often, and mainly the support champions. Now, when we are talking about champions that are just there to do damage, you don't need to have the craziest speed on them as you used to have that before, right? So that's something that changed. Now, the biggest controversy right here is the decreased speed. While I'm 100% sure that decreased speed will not affect people that are just running their regular Hydra teams and they're not absolutely breaking all of the heads, dealing insane damage, the decreased speed will most likely mess up your high-end team. And the whole idea is the AoE decreased speed, where you don't have the control on what heads are getting the decreased speed. So the main idea is, when you have a lot of firepower in your team and you're constantly dropping the heads in 1, 2, 3 turns, they're constantly spawning back, right? And the whole idea here is that if they're constantly spawning back with that serpent buff, you're just going to take turns and turns and turns without dealing any damage whatsoever. And that will overall cost you. Now, I haven't done a full test just yet. This is more of a theory at the moment. I haven't done a full test where I'm taking out Krisk and bringing in Grazur. But a clanmate of mine did, and funny enough, the results are a bit different. Now, there are a couple of different things that can affect that. So let me just quickly explain you that as well. So right here, this is the current world record at the moment, made by Ovian, a clanmate of mine, and it's with Grazur, right? So we were actually going back and forward talking about decreased speed, no decreased speed on AoE skills. Of course, Feral still has decreased speed. So with that, you can actually control on who will get the decreased speed. Now, with Grazur, he's still increasing the duration of buffs. He brings you the enemy max HP damage as well. The only thing is, right here, you are losing that increased speed, okay? Yes, Yinchenza will bring increased speed, but you're not going to be able to put it on all of your champions. So that can already affect a bit your damage because you're not rotating your team as often, okay? Then, right here we have Krisk. Now, this is not a run that actually ended. And as you may notice, we are pretty close to the same result, but we still have around 150 turns left. Which means that we can still bring in around 100, 150, maybe even 200 million damage. Most likely around 200 million damage, considering the caliber of this team. So this one right here, while it shows that the decreased speed won't really affect you as much, I'm going to show you while I'm doing my run exactly what I'm talking about, because I'm going to do my nightmare run as well, guys, and we're going to talk about a few different things as well. The main issue is not having decreased speed on these 3 heads right here on the left side. It's having it on this head with the serpent buff, which will take much longer now to get a turn and get rid of the serpent buff, you know? So right here, a few different things can affect the damage. Maybe he had better RNG on the heads that they spawned, so it's not enough to basically look at this and be like, that's it, decreased speed is fine, no issues whatsoever with the decreased speed from Krisk. The increased speed that is being lost can be an issue. And the next thing is, You have Theox in the team, no counterattacks. So if you have no counterattacks, you are immediately losing millions and millions, tens of millions of damage, basically, right? Because he counterattacks when he has another lizard. So that's another thing. You kind of like need that risk in there. And the whole idea right now is basically to have enough tests done to see if the decreased speed and the increased speed and the counterattack from Theox will basically beat the team with no decreased speed AoE, no counterattack from Theox. So basically, we need to do a few tests in order to really understand it. So probably it's gonna take us 1 or 2 weeks to really come to that final conclusion. Talking about debuffs and the gear sets, guys, and mainly talking about the curse set. So a lot of people instantly said, well, hacks won't be as beneficial anymore. Hacks will actually mess up your run. In some cases, the hacks will mess up your control over how you are basically respawning the heads. But you can't really do much about it. Now, if you're dropping the hacks to counter that issue, you're going to be encountering much bigger problems. At least that's what I found on the testing that I've done so far, with hacks, without hacks. So I really think that hacks is still going to maintain its value, even though a lot of people really thought that hacks won't be as valuable. And just to make this point clear again, before I'm getting dumb comments, I'm talking about the super high-end teams. The high-end teams. There are thousands of people running high-end teams that can do a lot of burst damage on the Hydra. Gear sets like protection. So before, you were always very kind of like interested to super stack protection sets on all of your champions. So there is a bit of a yes and a no with this thing, to be honest, and that's mainly champions that are really, really important. Take, for example, Feral. I'm still running mine on 9-piece protection, and that's because I am planning to do further testing on the whole idea. Basically, sometimes the heads are spawning so fast that you're just not able to decrease the cooldowns of your skills fast enough. Okay, you're just not able to make that happen. So when that is the case, you're gonna end up in a situation where either you're gonna have a toxic cloud on, either you're gonna have a reflect damage, either you're gonna have something that will mess up your run. But of course, it depends what other champions you have in the team, how much control you have on removing buffs, decreasing the duration of buffs on the enemies, etc. Right? So when you have Mikage in the team, it won't be the biggest issue if Feral is not going to place the block buffs all of the time. So at the moment, I'm still running mine on 9-piece protection. The whole idea now is that you want to do burst damage. So basically, you want to focus as much damage as possible on a single target. And that's because they have that HP bar that will not instantly respawn when you're breaking it, but instead, you're actually going to deal additional damage on top of it when you're bursting a lot of damage. Which means that AoE damage in general lost more value. And that's because you cannot sustain the heads down for a very long duration of time. So that's one of the things that will overall mess up your run a bit more. And of course, one of the sets that will really become even more powerful, and it was powerful to start with, but not many people actually had a chance to really try it out because it is coming from the Siege. I'm talking about the Feral set. Now, at the moment, I can build a few champions on 9-piece Feral, but none of the champions that really matter, okay? So it's not something that I can really showcase in the video. I was actually talking with Seth quite a bit about this topic, and Raiho Bone Spear. So Raiho can be amazing in a team with Theox, because you're gonna get a lot of debuffs from Raiho's skill right here. Now, the only thing is, if you're not applying that defense down and weaken AoE, you're just going to lose overall a lot of damage. And that's something that I've already tested. While I do think that she's going to be an amazing champion in some of the teams, for my team, I literally lost 50% of the damage by replacing Yinchenza with Raiho Bone Spear, which is a bit much, right? But she's still very, very solid. And running her on a Feral set, for example, will absolutely deal insane damage in terms of burst damage, right? Of course, you could fill in a champion that can spread the debuffs, right? And then you're gonna have pretty much defense down and weaken on everybody else. That's one solid option as well. So the next gear sets that will be very, very efficient as well will be Reflex, as it used to be. You're gonna have Impulse, 4-piece Merciless, and one set that lost a lot of value for this type of teams, guys, Relentless. So once again, Relentless is dropping more and more in value. The whole thing is before the changes, right? If you guys were curious how some of my clanmates managed to get 20 plus billion on Nightmare as the world record with Easu, was basically having a Theox in Relentless. So I used my Theox in Relentless too, and I've got pretty solid results. The only thing is right now you don't want to have that, because you're bursting so much damage, you're killing the head so fast that Relentless will just mess up the entire thing in your team. So that's another thing to kind of like keep in mind. Counterattack accessories. Counterattacks do not count as turns, and you're going to be able to deal more damage. So if you can fit counterattack accessories on any of your champions, will be great. If you are using a counterattack champion like Alice, because he's kind of like the only one that will really, really mean something in terms of doing good damage in the Hydra clan boss, you could be getting some nice results with a counterattack, because that's something that does not count as a turn. So overall, you should be able to push a bit more damage. And the most important thing, the most powerful thing, ally attack champions. Ally attacks will burst damage. You're gonna take in all of your team, so the ally attack champions actually gain even more value. So if you are not running ally attack champions, it's time to do it. Maybe even 2 ally attack champions in some of the teams to push even more damage if you can, of course. So I just wanted to really kind of like point all of these things out. Now, if we're gonna head over straight to the Hydra clan boss, guys, we're gonna do a bit of commentary. I'm gonna basically show you how I'm doing some of the things, why I'm not doing some of the things, and how I'm trying to basically control all of the heads. I've already done a test with this team today, actually. I stopped the run. I haven't went all the way to the end. I easily broke over 1 billion damage, and I still had plenty of turns. I haven't even got into the red count, so I was basically able to most likely beat the world record that I just showed you before. And my champions don't have so many blessings on them. They don't have empowerment, and maybe I'm just a bit too optimistic about it. Maybe we're not gonna beat it, but we're definitely going to try. So this is one of the most powerful teams in the game, excluding Trunda, okay? But without further ado, let's dive in and see what sort of a result we can get with this team, taking in consideration everything that I just talked about. Made my cup of coffee, and don't worry guys, I'm not gonna keep you through the entire run, because this will take approximately 1 hour and a bit, okay? Because I'm gonna go full manual on the run. To be honest, I'm definitely not planning to manual the Hydra every single week. It's definitely something that, yeah, I'm not too interested in doing, you know? At the beginning, it's actually very helpful if you can decapitate all of the 4 heads at the same time. Is actually much better, because the main pattern that you kind of like want to follow with this is having all of these Hydra heads spawning in groups of 2, right? Because if you're doing that, one will have the buff, one won't have the buff. Now, it will get much harder the more you go into the run, because you're going to end up in killing 3, and they're going to spawn separately. That will happen as well. But as long as you're trying to control it a little bit, you should be fine. I really think that Plarium should definitely consider in changing a bit the way this mechanic works, and don't actually allow all of the heads to come with the buff if they spawn separately. They kind of like need to put a cap where only 2 heads will actually have the buffs, 2 without the buffs, you know. But I'm not sure if they are planning to change anything in this department, to be honest. Still, I'm very curious if they will. Now, one thing that I do want to mention about the Inchensa, personally, I do feel that she can be very annoying in some cases with her A1. And what I've done in here, just to try and reduce a bit the RNG, especially with Ieyasu. If the reflect damage is up and Vincenza is going to take a turn straight after and she doesn't have the A2 or the A3 available, and Ieyasu joins the attack, he's going to die, right? So what I've done, I actually have a higher crit damage on Theox if they have no buffs. So that will actually kind of like rotate in between who's joining the ally attack a bit more often. So what I'm gonna do right here, guys, I'm gonna go straight for the Head of Mischief, take that naughty bugger out, and then take the head of Rat as well. So this is the perfect scenario when you're able to kill all 4 of them at the same time. Then the next step will be basically trying to keep them 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 as often as possible, right? So you see ally attack, Ieyasu joins right now, and it already broke one of them, which is coming out alone. There isn't much that I can do about this, to be honest. And right here, in some cases, okay, not necessarily this situation, you might choose to attack the head with a buff so you don't deal damage on the rest, to don't have them spawn separately, you know? That's another thing to keep in mind. So right here, I should be able to bring 2 of them back at the same time, if not all 3 of them. So we're using this, and all 3 of them are coming back. I'm going to have 3 of them with the buff. That was a bit more unfortunate here, to be honest. So what I'm going to do right now, I still need to use the A2 on Theox one more time. So I'm going to try to stack his increased attack. We're going to go on one of those heads that have the buff. It doesn't really matter as much. Preferably, if you can, attack a different one. That will be a bit more helpful. So we can slowly take the head of Torment down. I really want to make sure I'm going to have that provoke from Krisk, you know. So hopefully that comes in. We still have good damage at turn 4. And as I mentioned, guys, this is kind of like more focusing on the teams that are able to really drop big damage. Now, as you may notice with Krisk, we have decreased speed AoE. We can control which head is going to get it. The Head of Suffering has decreased speed. It's going to be ages till he's actually going to take a turn. The Head of Decay has decreased speed. Thankfully, he's going to take a turn pretty soon. Now, the main issue that you might have is when the Head of Mischief spawns without a buff, and then you're basically going to kill the Head of Mischief without even trying, and you're going to drop the turn meter on the rest. They have the decreased speed. So that's why I'm stressing this decreased speed out as much as I am. Because there are scenarios where it's just not worth having, basically, you know. Okay, so we have the provoke in order. We have block buffs, which is beautiful. We can actually slowly go and take this head down, and then focus on another one to take it down. I'm really supposed to use the ally attack on the Head of Blight, to be honest. It was definitely going to be a much better outcome. But I rushed a little bit in here. Theox counterattack, that's the beauty of it. To have a lizard in the team. That's exactly what I was talking about before, you know. It makes such a big difference to have those counterattacks because they don't count as turns. They can bring you basically extra damage, you know. So let's take this one down. The main idea is if I'm taking any of them down, this one most likely will respawn on its own, but there isn't much that I can do about it. Or, yeah, I was gonna say maybe we're gonna get lucky, but clearly we haven't got lucky. So let's put the block buffs again, and we're gonna have to take the head of Decay out, and slowly we're just gonna push as much damage towards that head as possible. Use the A2 from Vincenza on Ieyasu, sometimes on Theox. Another counterattack in there, bang, 1+ million damage, which is very helpful. This head should be going down, even though we got weak hits with Theox. Oh, so freaking close, so freaking close. Do not take a turn. Okay, we're safe. You see, right now we have Theox joining the ally attack from Vincenza. So that's the beauty of it. We have a bit of control on what we're doing with that, you know. Okay, we got Ieyasu to put in a bit of work. We're gonna go for the head that is not decapitated, so we actually deal a bit of extra damage. And right now, it is a bit harder right here because no matter who I'm attacking, I'm gonna kill it, and this one is gonna spawn back. So the best thing right here to maximize my damage is to attack the one that's decapitated, because I already know he's gonna spawn. No matter who I'm attacking with Theox's A1, that head will spawn. So instead, I'm gonna try to burst as much damage as possible, so Theox will break the HP, And now, basically, we're dealing extra damage, right? So all of this was additional damage. That's why ally attack champions are so powerful in the current meta, you know? And this, of course, is not necessarily the ultimate best rotation from Theox, but it's not a bad one either, you know? So right now we have 3 heads that are down. I'm actually going to go for the Head of Mischief. Take that down. Drop a bit the Thermometer. This one is still standing. Still standing. So right now I have 4 debuffs right here, 4 debuffs right here, and of course I'm going to go for the one on the left, even though it is Magic Affinity. The Head of Suffering will really reduce my damage a lot. Even if I'm counting the weak hits, maybe it's gonna be pretty even actually. So one has the buff, one doesn't have the buff, which is beautiful. There isn't much that I can do right now except attack this head that just spawned, or I can go in and get some bigger numbers from the other one that's still decapitated, and basically maximize the damage because it will spawn no matter what, you know. So let's actually bring in a few million damage instead. Let's put the block buffs, and who needs some of these buffs? Chris can do the provoke. We can increase the duration of buffs with Mikage. And from here on, we can focus on the Head of Blight. The Head of Decay, sorry. And in the meantime, hopefully the Blight and the Torment will take a turn as well, you know. And that should put us in a decent spot. The problem this rotation is that the Head of the Rat is Magic Affinity, so Feral can get weak hits pretty damn often and not land the block buffs. Thankfully, Mikage is in the team. Either she's going to remove the buffs, either she's going to do something else. But as you may notice, the head of Decay right here has a Toxic Cloud on because Feral got a weak hit on him. So we're going to go on the Head of Blight now. We're going to shift our focus on a different one. We don't have defense down and weaken on that one, so we're definitely dropping a bit of damage. Thankfully, we can apply it now. Counterattack, beautiful, even though it's only 60k. Oh, we actually had fear on Inchensa. I haven't realized that. That's fine. Let's do an ally attack. I definitely need to look into changing a bit the speeds around. I do want to keep the protection on Inchensa. And one of the main things that I have, I'm trying to basically make her use the A2 as often as possible as well. So sometimes because she's faster, she's gonna get feared because of the A1 being AoE. So that can put me in a bad spot and miss some of the cooldowns. I do want to try her on a reflex and impulse maybe, or reflex and 4-piece merciless or something like that, you know. Even at a cost of dropping that protection, I do want to see if it makes a bit of a difference or it won't. So right now, I'm definitely going to go to take out the Head of Torment because he's pretty annoying. Beautiful. So we have 3 down, 1 still standing. I'm going to try to take this one down now. I don't want to use the block buffs right now, even though I kind of like want to get more damage with Theox. The thing is, if I'm doing it, most likely I'm going to need it as soon as the heads will spawn. So all of them are down. We got a counterattack, even though it was decapitated, so we can apply defense down and weaken. Right now I'm going to go A1 in the hope to apply decrease speed and put a hex on some of the heads just to have a bit of more firepower with Theox. So we have 4 debuffs, and this should bring all 4 of them back right now. 2.4, 1.8, and then Eyasu, bang, dropped all of them back. 2 will have the buff, 2 won't have the buff. So this is the perfect scenario. Basically, that's what Hydra become now. A game of playing with the heads. Keep 2 down, bring 2 up, etc. You know, if you can bring them all 4 at the same time, it's even better actually, because that really allows you to have a lot of control basically. So we have what, turn 18, and we have 193 million damage. We're not looking too bad. I will push, of course, Theox as much as I can, just to basically have that ally attack with a basic skill. Sometimes I will use Inchensa's A2 on different champions, like maybe a Mikage, maybe even on herself, if I feel like I need to basically get in front of a different champion to apply the debuffs or apply the buffs or do something like that, right? So we don't want to apply decrease speed on the ones that still have the Serpent buff. I will need to use this one just to give increased attack to Theox, actually. But I'm going to focus the Head of Suffering a little bit. Just to drop a bit of HP on that one as well, because he is very, very tanky. Right now, unfortunately, the Head of Torment will try to mess us up for a little bit, but that's it. Theox join in the attack. Game over. I want to keep that head as it is at the moment. So I don't wanna kill it just yet. I want to apply the debuffs first and try to basically maximize the damage. The more debuffs we can land with the champions, the more damage Theox is going to bring to the team overall, right? So that's another thing that's very, very important. And it is much, much harder to stack debuffs now. It's a completely different game. So I'm actually going to try to take the Head of Mischief down here. And hopefully the other one is still going to stand. Okay, beautiful. So it's still there. I'm going to go for the Head of Suffering just to try and keep the other ones alive. I'm worried that I have to do the ally attack, but I'm worried that the other one will actually spawn. Let's see. Yes, this is going to come back out instantly, so he's going to have a buff, which kind of like puts me in a bad spot right here. I will have to basically go and kill some different ones right here, because I don't have defense down on the decapitated one. So the Head of Suffering going down. The Head of Blight will go down pretty soon as well. Damn, Chris, can you land some of your debuffs? Okay, so we have 3 down again, 1 up. This is where I don't like Vincenza as much as I used to do before, because right now she's basically forcing me to bring one of the heads back. Which is not necessarily a problem, because I still have to, and even if I'm bringing all of them 3 together, I'm still gonna have 2 with a buff and 1 without, right? So it's more or less the same thing. So I'm gonna go A1 on this one, and come on, Vincenza, put the debuffs. This is where I'm not sure if I want to go A1. How much damage I'm going to bring is another thing that we really need to start paying attention to see how much damage our champions will do when they don't have a lot of debuffs and stuff. So right now, if I'm going to do an ally attack, I'm instantly going to kill one of these heads. So instead, I'm just gonna increase the duration of buffs for the moment. I'm going to use the Provoke from Krisk. Apply the defense down and weaken. And right now we have 2 heads. One has 4 buffs, one has 3. So I'm going to go for the one with 4 buffs. The Head of Suffering. It might even actually reduce a bit my damage, to be honest. So, okay, one is spawning out. Not enough damage, unfortunately. And that's mainly because we did not have the increased attack on Theox. Right now, this is the scenario that Flareum said. It won't happen as often. So here is just me basically trying to dodge all of the heads spawning, but I just did not manage to do it properly. See, decreased speed is still keeping these heads with a buff on, and I've took so many turns already, and they still have that on. So I'm gonna buff somebody else instead of Theox, because I don't want him to take a turn. Come on, Rat, take a turn as well, please. But either way, we have pretty good damage. 245 million, 23 turns. Definitely not complaining about the damage so far. The main goal is to try and reach 1.5 billion, if we can. Weak hit on the Head of Rat, that is actually dangerous. Counterattack from Theox is even more dangerous. This is the most dangerous scenario right here. Thankfully, we had that massive shield, because I actually have a Blood Shield accessory on him, just for these situations. We are near the end, guys, and as it stands right now, we beat the world record, and this team right here is the most insane team except the Tranda teams, okay? Pretty good score, actually. We managed to do almost 300 million more than the previous world record. Now, most likely somebody with higher blessings, higher empowerment in the next few days will attempt to beat this, and most likely they might be successful. Now, keep in mind, I have no empowered champions in here. I don't have 6-star blessings on literally any of them. If I would have that, it would be completely a different story, but we're gonna have to wait for that another time, basically, so we can spawn 2 again at the same time. I was literally on track to have a very, very good damage. Still, all of them spawned at the same time with the buff, more or less. A cleanse and a toxic cloud, which basically made me drop around 100 million damage. So basically, I was kind of like going on the count with how many Boston counts I have and how much damage I have. And I managed to keep it up all the way, almost till the end, to be on even number there. But that really messed me up. So I'm kind of like 100 plus million damage less than I kind of like was expecting to get, basically. So I should be able to get this team without having that bad RNG to 1.85, 1.9 billion, which is actually not bad at all, to be honest. Still doesn't compare with Randa, which has a lot of extra firepower, but it's definitely a pretty solid result. Now, as I mentioned, I am 100% not planning to manual this every single week. Okay, so I'm doing it now to get the world record, and maybe once a lot of people will beat my world record in the future, I'm gonna do it again, you know. But I'm not planning to manual this every single time because it is pretty time consuming. Look at that, 86 minutes, and I still have 2 more keys to do. One I'm gonna run on Oro most likely, but the other one I kind of like need to run it basically on manual if I'm running the Tranda team. It's definitely not gonna work on Oro, you know. But I'm definitely very pleased with the result from this kiddo. 300 million on top of the world record team that I showed you, with a lot of empowered champions and +4. Pretty solid. Now, of course, in that team he was not running Krisk, he was running Razur, so I am expecting him to get close to my score. It really seems like it's not a massive issue having the decreased speed, but I feel like having the increased speed is what really benefits you the most. Like, this decreased speed on the decapitated heads is irrelevant for me right now because I'm gonna take them down very quick, you know. But it is important to have it sometimes on non-decapitated heads, you know, just to ensure that they're not taking a turn so I can recover my cooldowns, but not when they have the buff, because when they have the buff it's pretty annoying. So no matter what I'm doing now, I'm gonna spawn this head. If I'm using this skill on that one, I'm not gonna do much. Let's go on this one. It's gonna be the same. So apply more pressure. What do we have? 2 more turns. Ooh. Can we get Theox to do a turn instead of Vincenza? No, Vincenza is gonna take a turn. Damn it. Damn it. Come on, Theox. And that's it. Oh, Theox got one. Theox got one. Let's go. Let's go. So this should bring me like a few more millions in here. Let's see. There we go. Beautiful. 1,766,000,000 damage, guys. I feel like we've definitely done a very good job. So as I mentioned, the current world record was this key right here, 1.48. Almost 300 million on top. And look at that. That's a Theox +4 6-star crushing rand. And he dealt the same amount of damage like my Theox. But of course, no counterattacks. So that really shows you that the counterattack from Theox is super important. Like, look at that. Mine is not empowered. 5-star blessing only, not crushing rand. His stats are so much better than on mine, on both of his damage dealers. I have Mikage in 9-piece protection, guys. These are the stats on her. I will put the Hydra stats on as well. Basically, that Great Hall is completely maxed for the Hydra clan boss. But as you may notice right here, I do have pretty high speeds for the support champions. More or less. Not crazy. Like, for example, my clanmate that had a world record before has like 400 speeds on the support champions. I'm not that fast on them, to be honest. Masteries, I don't even have proper masteries on Mikage, because I have Arena masteries by the looks of it. That's my Theox. 6-piece Merciless, 2-piece, Killstroke. These are his total stats with the Hydra battles. So 9.1k attack. I do have pretty good attack on him because I have a 5-star blessing that gives me quite a bit of extra attack. And I do have all the gear ascended, which of course definitely adds up quite a bit of attack. But my crit damage is pretty low at 341. I wish this would be at around 400. That would definitely make a massive difference. Masteries, offense and defense 3. Then we have Chris, which is on a curse set. Nothing special in here, to be honest. Basically just speed, resistance, accuracy. But this is with the Great Hall, right? So keep that in mind. Without the Great Hall, you're not going to have to build a champion as fast. that's what we have. Masteries, offense, support. Then we have Feral, 9-piece protection. These are his total stats. I would love to get Feral faster, I'll be honest, because having the block buffs on the Hydra heads as often as possible will be much, much better. But hey, 325 will have to get the job done. These are the masteries, offense, support. You can see the blessings right here. I'm not going to talk about them because you can basically see them on the screen. Inchensa, 9-piece protection. She's the fastest in the team. And that's mainly because I'm really trying to rotate that defense down and weaken as often as possible. For killing the head so fast, I just cannot keep up the step with the necessity of landing the defense down and weaken as often as I should, basically, you know. So the faster, the better. I am tempted to try her on a reflex set at some point. Just very curious to see if that will pay off, basically. But I don't think I can get her as fast on that. These are the masteries. Pretty much they all have similar masteries. And then we have Ieyasu. 6-piece Merciless Zeal set. These are his total stats. Now with the Hydra, these are the following stats on him. So they're very, very close with the crit damage, him and Theox. But it really worked well for me as it is. I was not really in trouble much with Ieyasu and any of my champions dying because I've never got resisted. I haven't got the 3% chance of removing the reflect damage or anything like that. But yeah, I would love to have a 6-star blessing on him. Crushing Grand will absolutely demolish. And these are the masteries on Ieyasu, guys. But that was all for the video. Hopefully, you understood a bit the mechanics better in terms of what sort of strategy you should try to use in order to kind of like control the heads better to maximize your damage. And yeah, much love. Appreciate all of you guys watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.